2023. It's been a journey up to this point, and today we'll be having the third and once again, you're welcome. Before we start off on today's edition, I am Ruth Soronadi, the Associate Head of Legal and Research, Honorable Justice Innocent Omezilike Foundation, and I am the moderator for this national debate competition. With me here is our timekeeper, Mr. Prince, the IT specialist of HJIUF, and I also have my distinguished panel of judges here, Barrister Ijoma Lekwa. You're welcome. You're welcome. She's the managing partner of Ijena Partners. And I also have here Mr. Daniel Oladoja. He's the Nigeria country lead of European Climate Foundation. You're welcome, sir. It's good to have you here. You're welcome, Ma. Ijoma, it's good to have you here. So the third judge or panelist, the third judge for this debate competition would soon be here. And I want to believe that all the student teams are also present. Today we'll be having Team Diamond, Team Sapphire from the southwestern region of Nigeria, and we also have Team Ruby and Team Beryl from the southeastern part of Nigeria. Before we get into the debate proper, I would want to give us a brief summary of the organizers of this debate competition, Honorable Justice Innocent Umezilike Foundation. So I'll be sharing my screen to do this. Okay. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen now to take us through what it's all about. Okay. The Honorable Justice Innocent Umezilike Foundation, it's an international non-governmental organization formed to honor the legacy of late Honorable Justice Innocent Azubike Umezilike, OFR, FCIRB, FIIAN. At the time of his death, was an acclaimed professor of land and property law. He authored over 25 books and served as the Chief Judge of Enugu State, clinching the longest serving Chief Judge in southern Nigeria. The foundation delivers its missions through the promotion of excellence, legal education, research, and charity initiatives. Some of our facilities and programs include the Law Library, Legal Research Center, annual lectures, workshops, and also we have student-focused initiatives and programs, one of which is this national debate competition for law students. Now, the background of this national debate competition is its purpose is to promote excellent legal education, research, critical thinking, and advocacy for upcoming lawyers, arming them with the choice skills needed for a successful career in law. Additionally, the debate themes, topics, arguments, and outcomes will serve as an outlet for intellectual reasoning, advocacy, and activism by young minds, creating awareness of topical issues of national relevance with the aim of providing insights to these solutions. Now, the objective of this NDC is to promote excellent legal research, education, critical thinking, and advocacy amongst upcoming lawyers, arming them with choice skills needed for a successful career in law. And it also has the objective of stimulating solution-driven intellectual reasoning on topical issues of national relevance, with the aim of providing insight into its solutions. Through the debate themes and topics, we want to inform and inspire participants and viewers, raise a sense of responsibility, and encourage civic engagement around thematic issues. So in summary, the NDC goal is to provide a platform for sound intellectual reasoning, education, research, and advocacy for law students, preparing them for a successful career in law. And now for this 2023 edition, the national debate themes are on property, land law, real estate, rule of law and democracy, education and the law, then human rights, especially rights of children. For today's segment of the quarterfinals, we'll be having 2 rounds. And the first round, round 3, has the topic or the issue in question: is gentrification of urban areas a positive or negative development for Nigeria's cities and communities? And to debate this, we have Team Diamond for the Parliament and Team Sapphire for the opposition. Then for the 4th round, please pardon that error. With the rise in courts influencing the outcome of the Nigerian democratic process, the judiciary is taking away the elective powers from the citizens who are the original electorates. So we have Team Ruby for the Parliament and Team Beryl for the opposition. At this point, we would begin the debate proper, the battle of words, the race for the final round with round 3, the gentrification of urban areas, whether it's a positive or a negative development. So at this point, I'll be inviting the first speaker for the Parliament, Team Diamond. You have the floor now.
Few years ago, I was walking along Ojota Road, Lagos State. Suddenly, I saw vendors running helter-skelter with their goods. I asked what was happening, and I was told that they were running from the Federal Road Safety Corps. While trying to escape an incoming team, Madam Ayodele, a jewelry vendor, ran into the road without looking and was crushed by a moving vehicle. How sad. Good day, panel. This house believes that gentrification of urban areas is a positive development for Nigerian cities and communities. I am Rushewe Oluwakemi, and I'll be representing Team Diamond. As defined by vitana.org, gentrification is the process of improving or renovating a neighborhood so that it conforms to a specific socio-economic taste. Urban area, according to the stipulation of the Nigerian legislature, is defined as an area with a population size of more than 20,000 people with basic social and physical infrastructure. The big question, panel, is that this development by the government, is this bringing positive impact? Of course it is. To start with, gentrification is simply a process of urbanization that every country undergoes at one point or the other. Lagos was once a slum before it was gentrified. Now, it is a mega city. Aba, Kano, Niger Delta, Port Harcourt are examples of urbanized cities and states in Nigeria that have grown to become major commercial centers in the country. Everyone wants to go to Lagos to sell their goods, travel to Aba, Onitsha for Nigerian-made wares, all thanks to gentrification to these areas. Furthermore, gentrification leads to an increase in property values and local business revenues. A general characteristic of gentrification in urban areas is demolition of old buildings that are gradually degrading, sales of these buildings to high-income earners, and reconstruction of this building into modern-day standards. This attracts both national and international investors into the country. Let's take Lagos State as a case study. Lagos State is the #1 commercial hub of Nigeria and one of the most populated cities in the world. According to statistics by DataPine, by destination of investments, Lagos State remained the top destination in second quarter of 2022, with approximately $2,000 billion, accounting for 69% of the total capital investment into Nigeria. Panel, it is pertinent to note that the government of Nigeria is taking obvious measures to gentrify the urban areas. It is, however, disheartening that the citizens of Nigeria are not ready to embrace this progress. Earlier, I spoke about the Federal Road Safety Corps cleaning the vendors obstructing the highway. Why should there be obstructions in the first place? This clearly shows that Nigerians are the ones frustrating the efforts of the government to gentrify the nation. The roads were extended initially through gentrification to curb gridlocks on the road. However, after the extension, citizens still erect their shops and kiosks in the clear parts of the road. This isn't good enough. Gentrification is change. It is redevelopment. It is reconstruction, reconditioning, modernization, a total makeover. Gentrified areas becomes cleaner, more habitable, and safer. This, indeed, is progress. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you to the first speaker for the parliament, Team Diamond. That was a good management of your time. Okay, we'll hear from the first speaker for the opposition, Team Sapphire. The first speaker for the opposition, Team Sapphire. It's your call now. Please, I would want to confirm that the debaters for Team Sapphire are here. Mr. Joshua Ayola.
Hello, ma'am.
Who is the representative for Team Sapphire?
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning. Apologies. I had network glitches and I was trying to check. I was trying to unmute myself, but I couldn't. I think you can hear me now, ma'am.
Yes, we can. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Can I go on, ma'am?
Yes, you can. You have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, the topic before us today brings images to mind of Mr. Chinedu losing touch with his ancestral home because he could no longer afford to live in his neighborhood, of Mr. Ade, who now lives under the bridge after he was evicted from Takwa Bay, his original home, by the Lagos State government, which was served a short notice claiming that the land they reside in is of state interest and thus should be vacated. While this recent picture may not exactly describe gentrification, it only shows the Nigerian reality of gentrification, which indeed is the topic of today's debate. Before proceeding, clarity of concept is very necessary. Gentrification is a concept first adopted by Glassroots, a British sociologist who first used the term in 1964. According to her, it involves wealthier persons moving into working class neighborhoods in a process that goes on until all or most of the original inhabitants are displaced and the old social character of such districts is changed. Judges, panelists, and Mr. Speaker, by this definition, we see the first adverse effect of gentrification and why it is not a good idea as the government members paint it to be. One essential feature of gentrification is displacement, and in Nigeria, there are about 24.4 million homeless people, according to a 2020 research by Borgin Project, accounting for about 13% of the Nigerian population. And out of this, it further shows that over 1 million people were displaced as a result of projects linked to gentrification in Lagos within a 15-year period. So I ask, is this displacement of millions of people as a result of gentrification a worthy cause at all? Moving on, this pathetic process has involved the government sending people out of their original places of inhabitants to build urban structures that favor the wealthy in the disguise of urban lifting or environmental control. Displacement therefore leads to another major concern, which is the issue of people losing their identities. Panelists, Mr. Speaker, the effect of sending people out of their homes means that the displaced persons are now disconnected from their ancestral places and forced to live in places that they are not accepted in. So they go from people which were accepted in where they are, seeking for an identity. And this problem is essentially captured in a research paper titled Gentrification and Environmental Justice in Nigeria, which especially explores the identity crisis confronting people who have been affected by gentrification. Speaking on, another principal shortcoming of gentrification, especially in Nigeria, is the threat that such industrialized regions pose to the ozone layer, fast leading to its depletion and increasing the risk of natural disaster. Through this point, we take a comprehensive look at the present and then an objective look into the future. Gentrified societies are characterized by industries, factories, etc., as confirmed by the municipal.org. This is Nigeria, and that alone makes a point on how shabbily town planning is taken. But I would confirm still, according to the International Journal of Advanced Engineering Research, most gentrified communities in Nigeria happen spontaneously without proper town planning and structural preparations. What it leads to is a petrol station beside a primary school, a soap producing factory just by a bakery, a gas station next to a worship center. These industries emit gases that are very harmful to persons in such communities. But even beyond this, they deplete the ozone layer, thus harming even generations to come. With the knowledge of this reality, how can anyone assert that gentrification of urban areas is a positive development? Now, my opponent may cite increased tax revenue or economic development as major gains of a gentrified community. But ladies and gentlemen, the government exists first and foremost for the welfare and betterment of the people. It is this reasoning that informs my assertion that if any economic policy would engender or stiffen the welfare of the people, regardless of imagined economic gains, such economic policy should not be implemented. So if citizens are displaced, made homeless, etc., because of an economic phenomenon, which is gentrification in this case, should the reason of imagined economic gain then warrant support for such phenomenon? No, precisely not. It is for this that we assert and affirm that gentrification is a negative development for urban cities. We believe salus populi suprema lex, translated as welfare of the people, should be the supreme law. And it is on this assertion that we from the opposition side stand in today's debate, that gentrification certainly has been more of a negative development to Nigerian urban cities. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. The first speaker for the opposition, Tim Sapphire. Thank you. Now we're going to hear the second speaker for the parliament, Tim Diamond. Please, I would want to say something before you start. For Tim Sapphire, before you, sorry, Tim Diamond. Tim Sapphire, before you start, please, we want you to show your video so that we can confirm your ID then you can subsequently unmute. You can turn off your camera if your bandwidth is low. Okay. So second speaker. All right, we've confirmed your ID. You're muted, so I can't hear you.
I said, I actually thought you could see me all the while. I apologize. I didn't know the video was not on.
Your video was not on. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the second speaker for Parliament.
According to the World Bank Development Statistics, the urban population percentage in Nigeria has increased to 52.5 as of 2021. This statistic shows that there is high growing urbanization rates in the country due to various benefits of gentrification. Good day, esteemed panel. I am Wuraola Okuneye, a representative of Team Diamond. To further lay credence to the first speaker's proposition and to affirm the assertion that gentrification of urban areas is a positive development for Nigerian cities and communities, the proposition will be examining the various benefits of gentrification in urban areas as a positive node of development for Nigerian cities and communities. To start with, gentrification provides employment opportunities and reduces crime rates. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the rate of youth unemployment in Nigeria is at 42.5, an alarming percentage for such a developing country like Nigeria. However, gentrification in urban areas has reduced this massively with the industrialization of urban areas and the provision of jobs. Furthermore, gentrification leads to increase in business development as well as the country's revenue. A factual example of this is the case of the discovery of crude oil in Niger Delta. This discovery led to the oil boom era in Nigeria and the gentrification of the Niger Delta area. This led to the development of that area as more youth got employed to work in oil companies, infrastructural development, and a reduction in crime rates. As a result, Nigeria now relies on oil exploration as a major source of national revenue. Similarly, according to a report by Business Day, dated 29 March 2019, Ajegunle, the Heart of Lagos, that once had old buildings where the cries of babies sprung out as a result of poor ventilation plans, have now been transformed into skylines to behold, with a brilliant touch of colorful paint that set them apart in a crowd of dilapidated buildings under brown rusted roof. What a beautiful development. Conclusively, gentrification directly contributes to expansion and redevelopment of urban renewal. Urban renewal is a transformative process which gives way to demolition, rebuilding, renovation, and installation of infrastructures that redefine neighborhoods and also enables private capitals from investors in slum communities. The Parliament strongly posits that with the point of view above, and with not only gentrification of urban areas a positive development for Nigerian cities and communities, but it is part of the process of building a balanced urbanized country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the second speaker for the Parliament. Now we'll be hearing the second speaker for the opposition. Tim Sapphire.
Good day, everyone. Can I go on? Oh, please, can you hear me?
We can hear you. You can proceed.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, members of the House, good day.
Your video.
Oh, okay. Good day, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Before I go into my arguments for today, I would like to dismantle some arguments as presented by the members of the government. First, the government claim that gentrification leads to an increase in employment opportunities, whereas the leader of opposition has come here to tell you that as a result of gentrification, people are displaced, and by this reality, like we have millions of people that are leaving places. In the from the research I cited, within the past 15 years, there have been over 1 million people that are displaced as a result of gentrification related as activities in Lagos State. This means that these millions of people are going to go into the society, and since they don't have work to do, they are going to employment is going down by that. That is, millions of people are becoming unemployed, and it is counterproductive. It is not in reality as employment is not a reality as posed by the government. Furthermore, the government has argued that gentrification would reduce insecurity. However, they fail to acknowledge the fact that this high level of displacement occasioned by gentrification leads to crime rates as people lose their sources of livelihood and their homes, thus resulting to life on the streets, and even embrace criminal activities as a way to survive on the streets. So from having somebody, from you trying to empower somebody by taking where they live, they now go into the society, and they constitute nuisances to the society. A further problem that my opponents fail to acknowledge, that which gentrification poses, is the problem of pollution. As said earlier, they claim that it is going to bring this, going to bring that development, but they fail to acknowledge the fact that pollution is an essential problem. In the world that we are in now, there are so much clamoring for a cutting down on greenhouse emission. But the point is that when this gentrification takes place, industrialized societies spring up, and then this causes more pollution in society. That means more greenhouses are released. And according to a research paper published under the ATS, according to a peer-reviewed journal published under the ATS journal, titled "The Impact of Gentrification," the impact of gentrification the impact of gentrification in traffic related. My goodness. Okay, according to this research article, it is reported that people suffer from that students suffer from lung-related diseases and other forms of diseases that are occasioned by this industrialization that is caused by gentrification. So another problem is increasing inequality. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I would just like to put my argument to a close by just going back to the increasing inequality that is occasioned by.
Your time is up. Your
right.
time is up. Thank you to the second speaker for the opposition. To wrap up this round, we would in a minute hear from the first speaker for the parliament. The floor is open to the first speaker for the parliament, Tim Diamond. Tim Diamond.
We had an issue with the network. Okay. So the opposition raised a point. The opposition raised a point on displacement. However, these displacements are necessary because some ancient and irrelevant buildings are in existence. Let's take a look at Ikorodu Garage at Lagos State, for instance. The state was such a rural area, but through gentrification, it was urbanized. Take a look at the roads. The roads of Lagos State were totally tight and tiny, but due to gentrification, the roads were expanded. The buildings beside the roads were dilapidated and replaced with shops and malls, making the state a mega village, a total good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the first speaker for the parliament. So in 1 minute, the first speaker for the opposition, can you wrap up your debates? Tim Sapphire.
You can hear me now, right?
Yes, we can hear you now.
To round up this debate, I would like to give an insight on what my opposition mentioned last. What she is suggesting is that because of this, the properties that persons own, they can legitimately be displaced from their homes. We spoke earlier that the welfare of the people is the supreme law. which means that the welfare of the citizens should be the priority of the government. So are we saying that because their homes are ancient, they should be displaced from their cultural heritage, from their ancestral heritage? This is very fallacious. Also, in conclusion, this debate is not one of possibility or this debate is one of reality. It doesn't say that will every society be gentrified at the end of the day. Instead, it asks that as the situation is, has it made a positive impact or negative impact? So the fact that societies will eventually be gentrified is not the concept of this debate at all. And we have proven to you that the negative impact of gentrification far outweighs its positive impact. And this is why we from the opposition side can openly assert that definitely the gentrification of urban cities has been negative thus far. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim Safai. With this, we would call it a day on this round. We've heard both sides on whether gentrification of urban areas is a positive or a negative development. I would leave, we both made very salient points, and I would refrain from commenting at this time. Probably after we've heard from the judges, I would say one or two things about this. So without much ado, we would move into the round 4 and final round of the quarterfinals of this debate. And the issue on ground is whether the judiciary taking away elective powers from the citizens, whether the judiciary has, as in by their actions, have taken the elective powers from the citizens who are the original electorate. So we'll be hearing from the parliament on whether this is so, and from the opposition on whether it is not. And we have Teams Ruby and Beryl. Tim Ruby is for the parliament, Tim Beryl is for the opposition. So Tim Ruby, you have the floor, the first speaker for the parliament.
Good day, the panel. This house proposes that the courts, with the rise in the courts influencing the outcome of the democratic process in Nigeria, has taken away the elective powers of the citizens who are the original electorates. In the course of our argument, the first speaker is going to be giving the outcomes and the effects of the judiciary interfering in this Nigerian democratic process, and as well as give facts and authorities to buttress their points, while the second speaker is going to give a rebuttal to the opposition's argument and make further arguments. On my point, as the first speaker, you agree with me, panel, that a true democracy entails that the electorate elects their leaders in a periodic, free and fair elections, and these leaders are supposed to be elected at the end of the poll, at the end of the elections, and not ordinary to go to the court. But what is obtainable in Nigeria is that the judiciary has interfered in several occasions to determine this particular court, this particular electoral outcome. First and foremost, you ask, how does the court influence this electoral outcome? That the judicial system is based on principles, precedents, laws, acts, and what have you. And so they tie their proceedings to technicalities and rules of the court. To that effect, if petitions are brought to the court, it could be that it would lose its substance in the presence of these technicalities. We saw what happened in the case of APC against Bashir, Sheriff, and others, where the court struck out the case, the suit, because of the unpardonable procedure which was taken to initiate the action, which was the originating summons instead of the writ of summons. And now you begin to wonder, how do you place a role of making a decision that's supposed to be timeless and supposed to reflect the decisions of the electorate in the hands of a body that is based on technicalities, which is the court? My point is, the judiciary is present in democratic states in order to interpret laws and to adjudicate in disputes, to which these electoral disputes are a part of it. But what happens when this judiciary begins to play active roles in this particular electoral process and is not in good cause? In the case where the Senate president is someone who did not participate in the election at the primaries, being declared by the court as the winner of the primaries. Furthermore, we see that when the judiciary decides to interpret these laws, which is their sole function, they might interpret it in such a way that it would deviate from the literal understanding, and then it might not reflect the decisions of the electorate. We see what happens in the case of Awolowo against Shagari, where the court dismissed the claims of the petitioner because who stated that the respondent has not satisfied the requirements of the electoral decree of 1976, that he must attain 1/4 of not less than 2/3 of the states of the federation. This is actually one of the controversies in the just concluded 2023 election. Makes it to be recorded at the end of the elections that an election that was it makes it obvious that an election that was conducted and had over 93.46 million voters in participation would be decided by 7 justices sitting in the Supreme Court. Now you wonder whether the democracy is still a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, or if it is a democracy for the a government for the judiciary. Panel, you would agree with me that this has removed or has stripped the electorate of their elective powers and would thus enthrone apathy in the so-called democratic states such as Nigeria. Thank you.
All right. So at this point, we'd welcome the first speaker for the opposing side to also marshal out their points in this debate. Thank you. Tim Ruby, it's your time.
I want to confirm whether I'm audible.
Yeah, we can hear you. Sir? Yeah, you're audible.
Judges. Okay. So I will see the timer when I start. I'll be starting now. As first opposition speaker, I will be examining the burden of the debate, engage the context of this rise, engage the counterfactual where judiciary don't engage in electoral matters, and that is the crux of what this government is supposed to regret and stipulate our point. A good government, in regretting a status quo, needs to examine a world without the status quo. This means by the government stating that the lopsided interference by the judiciary and the need for change, this means to effectively canvass that ideals, they also need to look at the world where the judiciary don't perform its obligation of interpreting the law as stipulated in section 6 sub 1 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and on their powers to entertain electoral issues as stipulated in section 285, which the Electoral Act is part of that law, and even currently ongoing the provisions of the constitutions, specifically the contention of section 1342B, is currently in contention. But to effectively examine their own word, and they need to prefer another temple of justice for electoral issues. But no analysis was gotten from the government's speech. Hence, posing a serious loophole. They are not engaging their body. But let's engage a world where the judiciary interference is absent. And this is like reposing a classic example of where section 143 sub 10 and section 188 sub 10 currently subsist. Notice that this led to an aggravated politicization of electoral issues, and it has the Supreme Court had to intervene in Balowo and Peter Obi to actually overrule the impeachment because of like the whole impeachment was violating the law. As opposition, we would effectively show you that the judiciary is not taking away the elective matters, but performing their obligations reposed on them by Section 6 and the people, as the Constitution in the preamble stipulates, be the people of Nigeria. First reason is that the judiciary is merely consolidating the wishes of the people stipulated in the law. We need to understand that the rise in electoral matters in courts is due to the ambiguity of electoral provisions in the law. This ambiguity was not necessarily intended by the draftsman or the court, but the law in numerous scenarios have interpreted to adduce intention. What government work looks like when they regret that judiciary intervention is that there will be no party examine the provisions of those electoral matters. Notice that it will mostly be handed over to INEC, and INEC is a party who is not well abreast with interpreting the law, as it is not their niche. The impact of this argument is that it leads to an uncertainty in the political sphere, as there is no decider of political decisions. Second, it leads to a heavy politicization of the INEC, as it's no more just the whole electoral irregularities that is the pain of problem, but now interpretatory irregularities. We are not saying the courts are perfect, but we are saying if we want to ever achieve the democracy of an independent, where independent judiciary is an important feature, the judiciary needs to slice their onions and perform their obligation. Secondly, and most very principally important, is that taking away the pervading influence of the judiciary to ensure the mandate of the people is inconsistent with the democratic ideas of judiciary being the interpretatory arm of government. Nigeria is a democracy which is founded on fundamental ideas like rule of law and separation of powers. The separation of powers is entrenched in our ground norm to ensure its validity. The judiciary interpreting electoral provisions in electoral matter is in alignment with Section 6 sub 1. The impact of seeing this as an intrusion to be regretted is that government antagonizes the core principle of separation of powers, as powers to interpret is a repost on these arms by the Constitution, and notice that this will trickle down the independent nature of judiciary, which is a sine qua non for democracy. Second impact is that it negates the provision of the Constitution that, however amended, sets a bad precedent for Nigerian democracy. The impact is that it whittles traditional structure that ensures democratic ideals. People will lose trust in the system, and notice that it will lead to more corruption as accountability is downplayed to zero because their own counterfactual is INEC, and the impact on people losing trust in the whole electoral system, as the electoral system is seen as hope of the people. Lordship, judges and the House, my partner is going to properly accentuate the fact as to why we should not regret the judiciary inclusion in electoral matters. But with this point of mind, I have properly evinced that the judiciary inclusion is not just important, but is pertinent and germane. Thank you.
Thank you to the first speaker for the opposition. We'll now listen to the second speaker for the parliament. Tim Ruby. The second speaker for Tim Ruby.
Okay, to start with, our video is not really that okay, but on our points, I will first of all start by antagonizing the comments of the first speaker for the opposition. First, he cited the case of P2B, the P2B's case and some sections of the Constitution. Now, let me set this house straight that our argument is not that the powers of the judiciary should be taken away from them, but our argument is that by the decisions from the courts and from the judiciary, that the powers, the electoral powers of the people is being taken away from them, and it's now decided solely more in factual results that the judiciary is imposing on the people who they want and not who the people want. First of all, we are going to refer this panel to the case of Amechi and INEC, a case that is very clear to this point. In that case, Amechi did not participate in the general election. The people were voting with the idea that they are voting for a particular candidate who they gave the majority vote and who won in the election. But by the decision of the Supreme Court, Amechi was declared to be the winner of the election. Now, one wonders, was it Amechi that the people gave their mandate, or was it Ohiane that the people gave their mandate? What the Supreme Court could have ordinarily done in that case is to be critical and analytical to the great extent, order for re-election, and not impose on the people a governor that they decide they want because of precedent and technicality. Now, one wonders, as one is not really surprised as to this kind of event when we have a report from ICPC, a 2023 report from ICPC tagged the Nigerian Corruption Index, a report of pilot survey, a report submitted by the chairman of the commission, Professor Bolaji Owosanoye, a senior advocate of Nigeria, to the effect that 6 judges report that they have received up to 3 billion plus, and 5 male judges have also reported that they received about 392 million plus millions of naira for bribes they demanded and received. And all these bribes relate to election cases. The reports are there from ICPC online. And again, we have a report from This Day newspaper online that a particular senior advocate was in an intimate call with a judge of an election tribunal for a particular case that is handling. And at the end, the decision of the court went to the side of the senior advocates. The judge was tried by the NJC and was found guilty of the allegations, as well as the senior advocate. The reports are there in This Day newspaper online. So in essence, we are saying that the judiciary, by their decision, is imposing on the people the leaders they want and not who the people want. Thank you.
Thank you to the second speaker for the opposition. Now we would hear the second. Thank you to the second speaker for the parliament. Now we would hear the second speaker for the opposition.
Can I be heard? Is my audio on?
Your background is noisy. Like we are having interferences from your background noise. Okay, that's better. You're muted. You're muted. Okay, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon, panel. Is the interference still present?
You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, panel. I'll first begin by attacking the points of the opposition. They state that the judiciary has interfered with the electoral outcome, but we have not. As the first speaker stated, the judiciary is merely consolidating the will of the people. The judicial statement, as the opposition said, is based on principles and rules of the court. Hence, a petition can lose its merit. But these rules of the court, you should note, include the Electoral Act of 2022 and the Constitution of 1999. The Electoral Act states that there are reasons for bringing an electoral petition in Section 134 of the Electoral Act, and they are A person whose election in question was at the time of the election not qualified to contest the election. B, the election was nullified by reason of corrupt practices or non-compliance with provisions of this Act. Or C, the respondent was not duly elected by majority of lawful votes cast at the election. This means that these laws are to protect the people, and the lawyers are there. The lawyers and the judiciary are there to uphold the rights of the people, not take away their rights. Now, in CPC and INEC citation 2011 LCS 4865 Court of Appeal, the court held that it is a consistent holding of court that for a petition to proceed on non-compliance with the Electoral Act, the petitioner must not just prove that there was an interference, but that the interference affected the result of the election. Now, if an election is centered on malpractice and it is allowed to stand, there is no way that the judiciary will sit back and watch it happen. The judiciary, by casting the person who affected the election results through rigging or any other form of electoral malpractice, is actually upholding the will of the electorate, not taking out their vote. Now, they mentioned the case, Awolowo and Shagari, when they said that it involved the discretion of the court. It is not. It involved calculation. There were 19 states, 2/3, and they calculated it precisely. If you didn't need to win more than prepared, as they said, they did a mathematics there. It was not the the opposition council additionally said that the judiciary takes bribes from people. In election, bribes are also taken. But the decision of the judiciary, you prove your case, and the decision of the judiciary can be seen with the rationale that is used before it, showing people that yes, if your right is trampled on, if your votes are not accounted for, we take it to court and we check and we argue it and check what is wrong with the vote of people and we oppose your vote. In May 2019, this was voted by Voice of Africa and The Guardian and other newspapers. Malawi held a presidential election and it was won by the wrong candidate. The court announced the results and ordered for a new election. This is possible. The opponent said that the court should. They did it when it's necessary. The subsequent election was free and fair and announced the opposition party, Lazarus Chikwerem, as the winner of the election in April 2021. This means that the court understands the need of electorate and as a body, helping the electorate show their wishes. If they are interested, all the wrong votes, all the touches of the votes, the election of party will stand. Thank you.
Thank you to the second speaker for the opposition. To wrap up this round, in 1 minute, let's hear from the parliament.
Panel, in today's argument, the speakers from Team Ruby had examined the effect of the conduct of the court in the Nigerian democratic process, which took away the original electoral powers of the citizens, while the speakers from the opposition team has examined the role of the judiciary as pertinent to the democracy of the state. But what I want to bring to the notice of the panel is that the fact is not undisputed that the judiciary has a role to play in determining this electoral process if contentious issues should arise in such. But when it becomes troubling is when almost every case that has been held, every electoral process that has been held in Nigeria is concluded in the court. Even in Amici versus INEC, where you had Mr. A, Mr. B, and Mr. C contest for election, and the court goes ahead to declare someone who was not even in the contesting party. So we want to solidly hold in our proposition that the judiciary has taken away the original electoral powers of the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, to wrap up this round, let's hear from the opposition.
Good afternoon. I would give a closing argument on the proposition's point and conclude it. In Amici and INEC, we should realize that the other party was not qualified to contest the election. Do you mean that they should leave him, an incompetent person, to remain in seat while the judiciary watches their arms fold? No, they decided to give the post to a competent person. In every case where there is an incompetent person, at least what the judiciary is aiming to do is to ensure that a person who is qualified for the post can stand in Nigeria as a leader. Someone with every vote, instead of for every case in Nigeria there is a petition. I am yet to improve, and it's not for every case that there's petition. And in cases where there are petitions, I listed it in this case and sections of the Electoral Act that show that a petition is not allowed unless irregularity is found. The court cannot just stand up one day and remove someone and put Amici. There is a reason why the court removed them. If you fail to comply with the rules of the country and expect to just be the leader through your incompetence and cheating, you can't stand. The court will stop it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim Beryl. With this, we have successfully wrapped up the fourth round of today's quarterfinals and the second round for today. Before I make my own personal comments, I would want to hear from our judges. Barrister Ikechukwu, you're welcome. He's the third he's the third judge for this debate round. You're welcome. So I think we'll start from you, your feedback, your criticisms, your corrections from today's debate. You can unmute, sir.
All right. Good. I think it's afternoon now. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm trying to wrap up my stuff. It's giving me an issue concerning my video, but I guess you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I want to appreciate the entire team for the work they placed. Let me just start with Team Diamond. Okay, I appreciate the first speaker very well on the parliament on Tinder mode. For the second speaker on the Tinder mode, I just want to let you know that. Okay, no, sorry, Team Safari, right? Sorry, let's start with Team Safari. The second speaker, it was really difficult to understand you if you understand the topic you were to talk on, but I appreciate your first speaker. You almost, your contribution almost made his contribution look as if he was doing nothing. But for the Tindamod, the two ladies, you were astounding. Your eye contacts, your expressions, your introductions, they were perfect. I appreciated it. So for the Team Roby, both teams, you were astounding. I like the arguments, I like the rebuttals, and it makes it difficult for me on how to score because both teams were astounding. So I think that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barrister Ikechukwu. Okay,
Yeah.
let's hear from Barrister Ijoma. Let's hear your feedback. You
All
can
right. Good morning, everyone. It's almost afternoon, but it's still morning at least. Wow, I would really, really want to commend everyone. You guys blew my mind. Like, you don't understand. You made me even start, like, especially the people that debated on round 3, the one on sorry, I can't even urbanization. You know,
yeah.
Team Diamond. I don't know. I wish there was a way I could get across to both of you. You did
I
a
swear,
very excellent job. Even though I'm
swear.
personally not in agreement with your own side of the argument, because I live in Abuja and I see the dangers and the disadvantages of urbanization. As good as it sounds, you do not know the depth of disadvantages it brings to original settlers of a place. Because there is no point saying you want to urbanize a place and do not consider really the original settlers and maybe just push them aside. All those things you are trying to avoid by sending them out, you still find it eminent in wherever they go to settle. You still find everything that you were trying to avoid by that urbanization. You've not really, if you are going to procure a solution, it should spread across all angles. Some people should not be left out. But then you really blew my mind. Sapphire, the first speaker, you were so good. You showed good understanding of the topic. The second speaker, I would also commend you. You did a good job as well. But if it showed that you did not have very, very solid understanding of what your topic was. But then I would really commend you guys. Then for round 4, Beryl, I really need to give you a standing ovation. You did very well. Ruby, you did very well as well. You all did well, in fact, you all did well. But I would not even lie. The people that blew my mind were Diamond team. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Barrister IJ. But I think the purpose of the debate is that's why you may have your personal opinion about it. The purpose of the debate is to bring the divergent ideas, the divergent views on the same issue.
True.
Yes,
That's true. Thank you.
All right. Let's hear from Mr. Daniel.
All right. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and kudos to everyone who has spoken today. Ruth, can you stop smiling? Okay.
You know, saying that will increase the smile. Okay.
Right. So I want to say kudos to everyone today. Today felt more like a debate than yesterday.
Yes, actually.
I said stop smiling, please. All right. Yeah, today felt more like a debate than yesterday. I love the fact that even though some of you were doing the devil's job in the fact that you were devil's advocates, but then you and some of the things you said were outright fallacies. But you said it with your straight face and your full chest, and you didn't care whether it was true or whether it was not. Case in point was the fact that you alluded to the fact that oil exploration has made life better in the Niger Delta. That is not true, but you said it in a way that anyone who doesn't know the facts of the case will think it is true. And that is what debating is all about. It's all about selling your ideas in a very convincing manner. So well done. I think the standout debater for me today is the first speaker of I think Team, I'm not sure now, Team Beryl. Can you turn on your video just for me to be sure? Team Beryl, can you turn on your video? I just want to be sure of what I'm saying.
Team Beryl, can you turn on your video so that he can?
No. Have they gone? I think it's Team Beryl. Yeah, you're the one. You can turn it off now. So coming into this, I think that was one of the cases I wanted to listen to because I knew it's a very controversial subject. What you did better than everyone else was the fact that you brought in the technicality and the jargon of the legal profession, and it was really, really heavy. You brought it on very heavy. So I'm going to be very pragmatic. If it's a legal case, make it very legal. See, there's an element of debating is confusion. You have to sometimes try to bamboozle the person that is listening to you, right? And you did that so well because you just kept piling on the technicalities and the jargons. The opponent did something well, which was they argued very well, but their argument was very simple. So it wasn't a case of not arguing well. They did argue well, but it was a legal case. So I expected, I'm speaking as an outsider, I'm not a legal person, but the little I know about debating is if you're coming into a medical debate, you have to come with bags full of technical jargons. If you're coming into a legal debate, for especially a conversation that is around the Constitution and elections that is heavily legal and constitutional, and you have to come with fire powers of sections upon subsections. What the other party did was to bring a lot of real life scenarios. But even if that was how you wanted to go, then you should have brought more. You only brought the Shagari and the Obi case. I expected more, right? There have been several cases. So if that was the route you wanted to take, bring it on heavily, right? For me, when I debate or when I listen to debaters, I always tell them the content is king. So if you're coming into a debate, stories are powerful in the fact that it struck the emotional and the sentimental chord. But because this is a very technical case, what I expect more from you is a lot of technical innuendos and nuances. And I think that's what Tim Beryl did. And the fact that she just stood her ground and went at it like there was no stop, there was no stalling. You were saying a lot. See, this is what I respected her for. You were saying a lot, and you didn't lose your track. You didn't pause. You didn't lose steam. You just went from 0 to 100, right? And that's what you did better than every other person. Every other person stuttered. Every other person looked for their thoughts at some point. You just hate it, and you went at it like that. Your second speaker would have been a very, very phenomenal speaker, but she made a mistake. She used the Bluetooth earpiece. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that made it very difficult to hear her. And I didn't want to interrupt, so I just let her go. Because sometimes technology can ruin your debating, and that's the lesson you want to learn here. If you had not used that, I probably would have been hearing you more. I mean, I probably would have been able to hear you clearly, but I couldn't pick a lot of things you said, so I just relied on, I was really struggling to hear you. For the other teams, generally, so I've spoken to those who stood out for me. Like I said, like every other person I've said, Team Beryl and Team Ruby was really difficult separating you both. I think another thing I noticed is the fact that Team Beryl, your second speaker, did a huge job of rebuttal. I loved what you did. You just came in and decimated every other thing they've said. That was beautiful.
I swear, it was beautiful as well.
You took one job and you did it well.
Yeah.
Started everything they said and left the floor. That is beautiful. And for some of you, so these things happens in debate. Sometimes the second speaker should have been the first speaker. I'm not going to tell you where and which ones, but there were cases where the second speakers were more powerful than the first speakers, right? I mean, I don't know if you'll be given the score sheets, you would have seen it, but I love what the second speaker for this team did. Saying, I mean, I think that's Team Ruby. You came in, you had only one job and you did it and you left, and beautiful. Well done, guys. I think today has been incredible. Because of growth and development, I'll still recommend the Oxford debate videos, Oxford Union debate videos. Go there and watch it. Watch the one on I think there's one on Brexit. There's a particular episode on Brexit, if I'm not mistaken. Just go to Oxford Union debates and check them out. They are very powerful debates. Check Intelligence Squared. They have very, very fiery debates. And please, for God's sake, watch the great debaters. Because I think you guys there are better debaters today. There are way, 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 way better debaters today. And I'll be surprised if none of you eventually win this competition. If none of you on this show today wins, I would sue all of you. You have politics. You have politics. So if you don't win, you'll be in serious, serious trouble with me at the end of the day. But congratulations, you've done well. I think I've said too much. Well done.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Actually, I was wowed today. Today was engaging. I got that. It was a valuable, it was a very interesting debate. The points, the arguments, in as much as there were some fallacies in the arguments, what I wanted to say to the debaters is we learned logic. We are law students. We learned logic probably in year one. You know how the proposition and then the conclusion, that it should flow. The proposition should lead to a logical conclusion. There were some lapses. I'm not going to mention things that what you started with as your proposition. The inference and the conclusion was a bit faulty. I think Mr. Daniel mentioned that. So make sure that your arguments follow a logical sequence. Part of what we are doing in this competition is to train you on how to train you on advocacy, to train you on litigation, to train you on even as a member of the bench. If you're going to arrive at a conclusion, your premises should be able to fully support that conclusion that you want to arrive at. So subsequently, I believe that some of us from this thing would definitely get to the semifinal. So you can work on that while preparing for your semifinal rounds. Okay. Then I would also, a lot of you did well with the nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication actually is 80%. Verbal communication is just 20. The force of what your words, you mustn't necessarily shout, but the force of your words, do you believe in what you're trying to convince us about? You should be able to convey it by your expressions, a number of the debaters today did that. Oh, today was quite impressive, I must say. Okay, so, but I would encourage us to, work on your nonverbal communication. When you're saying something, your face shouldn't have the same, shouldn't be the same all through. Like when you're saying something that it's maybe out, that's something really shocking, you can show it in your expression, then you can now go back to default. It's when you're debating, you're more like taking your audience or those that you're trying to convince through a journey that you would want at the end of the journey for them to accept that thing that you are proposing or that thing that you're trying to bring to the table. So let your expressions follow your arguments. Let it not be bland. Okay. Then concerning, the round 4 was a purely legal thing. It was something on that's that part of judiciary and all. I would encourage when you're quoting a case, you may not need to fully cite it. Remember, time is of essence. You don't need to tell us. You can just say the Supreme Court in P2B versus INEC. The Supreme Court decided in P2B versus INEC. You don't need to give us the whole 9 yards of the citation in the full citation. That's just the point. You don't need to go all that, so that you won't also bore us. Okay, we want to be carried along. But overall, today was awesome. It was very engaging. It was truly a battle of words. Like, you came out with your swords unsheathed. I got value as a moderator, and I'm sure that the co-debaters too also got, your co-debaters also got value, and then the judges. Once again, I must thank us for an impressive debate, and I would just say, let the best team win. You would hear from us as to the qualifiers for the semifinals. And I want to really appreciate our awesome judges, our distinguished judges. Mr. Daniel, thank you for your inputs. It's helpful. I know they gained so much from it. Thank you, Barrister Ikechukwu, for your input, suggestions, and all. Thank you. And also thank you, Barrister IJ. Thank you. And thank you. I must appreciate your time since yesterday up till now. So with this, we'll draw the curtain on the 2023 quarterfinals of the Honorable Justice Innocent Umezilike Foundation National Debate Competition. I want to wish us a lovely afternoon and a lovely weekend ahead. Thank you. Bye.